Welcome to AHA, a human among humans. We have a great human here who's been traveling around the country, helping us understand how the world and we are evolving, and maybe what we're evolving into, maybe.
Yeah.
And my name is Michael Koran, your host, and this is Jake Keenan, both a United States traveler, and he's going to take his show on the road to England and maybe Europe.
Yep.
Helping us understand a new philosophy of life, actually, which we will continue to elaborate on this show. So tell us where we are and where we're going and how can we understand ourselves better.
Okay, can I do a slight recap for people who don't know? This is sort of part two of a previous half hour that, for those who missed the previous show, and I identified that I'm doing a campaign in biology and philosophy, and that the campaign is mostly directed at the uncertainties in today's evolutionary theory, but I'm particularly focused on the nature of civilization and how that's different within the grand sweep of evolution, and that we are not studying it now. We need to. There's no reason to just treat us as like individual super species and that like, hey, we've succeeded and we're the best.
No, we're evolving into even more.
So we need to find out what that even more is. And what is humanity with our incredible skyscrapers, planes, agriculture taking over the biosphere?
Yes.
What are we?
And help us understand ourselves better.
Help us understand
and
ourselves.
do ourselves better.
Right. So,
it's a lot in 27 minutes, but he can do it. Watch.
Okay, I want to do one little plug for me. I'll introduce my blog in case people have secondary questions. That is at the website evolutionfuture.life. So one word, evolutionfuture.life. And that has a lot of background to what's being talked about here, more references, that kind of thing. And it's getting started. As I mentioned, that I'm touring, talking to people, looking for support and collaboration and help in focusing on the nature of civilization evolution, we'll call it. And it's unknown what this is. What phase, what type of transition? Are we in a new ecospace is one of the ways that theory talks about it. When design of animals gets into a new ecospace, for example, when they think about all your friends, the unicellulars, the single cells,
yes,
they not only got into grouped together some kind of sex talking to each other, but because the oxygen atmosphere was so rich, they could get oxygen even when they were underneath one layer of other cells, and that rich oxygen allowed new design features for cells that was not allowed previously.
Wow, brilliant.
So this question is, are we in a new ecospace today?
Now we're making a new one.
Don't know if we're making it because the oxygen was made for by previous generations of cells producing oxygen and changing the atmosphere. So so what kind of ecospace are we getting into? That's actually the direction that I'm following up right now. I won't spend a lot of time on it. I'm writing stuff on it now, but this takes us into the nature of they think that humans collaborated really well with each other, and that was part of how we became like a pretty successful species. We could hunt together, gather together. We could do things together, take care of babies together.
A way for togetherness.
Right. So in my estimation, the best way to approach this is not like under cooperation banner or under superior abilities, but under a kind of a multi-behavioral approach, I'll call it, where we did combinations of behaviors together. You, I, and Seth in here taking care of this tonight, people on television cooperating and watching. All these things have to be behaviors, combinations happening together. So the references we cite and on, we're all involved in linkages of behavior. And I definitely do this knowingly in reference to the past transition 500 million years ago of being multicellular. So in looking for an explanation, that's one avenue to investigate. But ready for me to jump? Should I summarize again with a chart or go on talking about civilization?
Let's hear about civilization.
So I'd mentioned in the previous segment how the massive domestication of plants and animals that we've done, and a few insects, is is a phenomenon that of coevolution of a scale that's never before been seen that needs to be studied by evolution.
Are we domesticating insects?
Yes, we are.
Who?
Silkworms
Oh, yes.
are known. There are a few others that I've forgotten about.
One is enough. Oh, so
Okay, good.
Yes.
And
But a silkworm isn't an insect, is it? It's a...
I believe it's an insect, but I could be wrong.
I think it's a worm.
Yeah, we'll have to go into that one. Yeah, so that's a question. In my understanding, there are
ants domesticate insects.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, okay, fine. So another one that I want to talk about.
Bees are an insect, aren't they?
I'm not sure we've domesticated them.
No?
I don't know.
Oh, we have beehives.
We do.
Isn't that like a little farm?
Yeah, but like we've way done it with mammals and plants in a big way.
I see.
So I'll definitely count that.
Okay.
Yeah, so I want to talk about a field called social metabolism. It's a new field, and they're analyzing. That we need to do is like what is going on chemically in the world today. When we ship this many chemicals around the world, make this many new chemicals each year, when our buildings are like, storing massive amounts of iron and aluminum and new chemicals all the time, when we are running out of, that in our dumps for some chemicals, we have more sources of that metal or chemical than we do out in the wild. So, we're needing to recycle more of this chemical sourcing around the world. So this is like you have chemicals coming into our civilized world. It's being transformed in different industries. Some of it stockpiled and put into machinery or whatever stuff that we leave around. And then some of it's being shipped out and put into landfills or recycled somewhere. So here you have this big conveyor belt of chemicals being changed, new ones discovered every year, thousands of them, multi-tons. How do you, when the people who study this, they do call it metabolism, which is a little bit cheeky to biologists because it's not the real the real metabolism that goes inside cells, but nonetheless, it is so analogous to the metabolism ourselves, like why is civilization on a big scale doing this big chemical transduction everywhere you turn?
And metabolism is eating, digesting, and
it's the energy of supply and the materials that you need to keep the whole cycle going. So our little material world of houses, bridges, and airports also has its little metabolism to keep things on.
Web and part, yes. I'm part of it. If I shop at Trader Joe's,
we're all moving it. Yeah, we're running the electrons through us right now, and God knows what power plants that's feeding and what.
Love it.
So, here's an analogy that on a large scale civilization is running a new metabolism. What do you mean by it? What does that say evolutionary? I will point out that another field of study that's not appreciated by biologists that much is there are chemists who think that the evolution of chemistry on the planet, right out of the geosphere, is the primary evolution for the planet. And that different species are merely, the little flecks of energy and pockets of material that are within that grand sweep of chemical evolution. So that's R.J.P. Williams and Ross Rickaby. These are two scientists they're chemists who say, hey, we've got main evolution. You guys and your species, they're just riding the big wave, so enjoy it.
Because they're chemists, right?
Because they're chemists.
Oh, I see.
And they're saying chemistry is number one.
Whereas quark people might say quarks are really where it's at.
I don't know if they would say that's where evolution is at, but I haven't heard that yet.
Oh, I see.
Anyway, what I'm trying to do here is make the listener appreciate the scale of what's going on, and that it has analogies to biology at different levels.
I'm getting it. I like it.
These are all questions that we should be asking our evolutionary theorists to address.
Well, I can feel myself. I'm part of I'm not just me. I'm part of evolution.
Yes. So that bigger evolution is the question that we've avoided because we've wanted to take ourselves as
beyond evolution.
We're beyond evolution.
But I like being in it. So that's much more.
I agree.
That's more sensual.
Good. So the huge scale of domestication I mentioned, this new thing called social metabolism.
Yes.
For that, I recommend the book by Bassini and Bruner from MIT Press on social metabolism. But so then the third one that I'll talk about is the built environment, and now that's really it's kind of been a crossover field now. They have what they call material culture studies. There are a number of fields that are trying to approach the environment. What does it mean that all over the world we've been building houses and stuff, and how does that affect us? Does that affect how we evolve? Does ceramics mean that we tended to settle down? Does it mean we have to stick around and repair them? What are the
Big difference from being a hunter-gatherer.
big difference from being
Like
a hunter-gatherer?
you, traveling around in your van.
I wish.
Yeah.
I don't think I need to say, what do I need to say about the material culture studies? And there are a number of different studies that approach it. This is in economics, in archaeology, where they're primarily studying it. They do study it in fields called ecological psychology, where they treat things as affordances.
As what?
Affordances. They give us the opportunity to act. So I can pick up my pen and I can do something.
Right.
It affords me this opportunity. So the world around us is like brimming with chances for us to interact.
Pick up an orange, it affords me orange juice.
Yes. So, but these are things we've prepared. The orange made itself for you to like.
Yes, thank
Okay.
you, orange, yes.
Good. There are a number of fields. There are things where like termites use stigmergy, where they place.
What is it with stigmergy?
Stigmergy, where they don't know what they're doing, but they follow the next guy, and where he leaves mud, then I leave a piece of mud, and pretty soon they got a big termite house. So we all do interact with each other, and we leave our coats on the chairs they provide us. So we're always reacting, moving more things to adapt to other things. There's what's the other? Oh, and people are studying the large scale span now. They call it the technosphere. Peter Haff, for example, is big on understanding that, and that's part of the. I should mention, most listeners will know we have a period in geological history now called the Anthropocene, which you and I have talked about, I believe.
Yes, you're going to remind us.
So geology was faced with, wait a minute, what's going on with the Earth and the environment now is so much different than what we've seen over other epochs and eras within geological, what they call it, history, I don't know what they call it, geological ages.
Yeah.
So do we need to call this a new era, new epoch?
Yes.
And they pretty much said yes, but they haven't defined it yet. And is it, what's the signature? They want the signature in the soil. Could that be the uranium from the first atomic bombs? Could that be when, coal started being produced for steam power and, really changed the soil or the deposits of... So anyway, you've got people discussing that. So this discussion of the technosphere is that the built environment is a new manifestation out of the geosphere. So they haven't quite figured out how to put that together with what is going on with biology in the biosphere, but we have a new sphere. Walk around any city for a minute, look on the globe and look at the lights all over the earth, and you'll see, whoa, something big is going on here. What is it? You've got 4.5 billion years, we'll give it 4 billion years of evolutionary history of life going on, but there's something strange going on in the last few thousand years.
Yes.
So the technosphere, the built environment, the social metabolism, this is a cluster of phenomena that also need to be explained under some umbrella theory that grapples with what's going on in evolution now. So we're a multi-species and a multi-constructed niche here.
And we're multi-species because we're working with dogs and cats and horses and
Yes.
and bees.
Yeah. They're dependent on us. We're dependent on them. There are no humans now that live without agriculture that we can find right now. So we need them. We depend on them and vice versa. Some of them can go wild, and that's a whole field there. But basically, overall, we're packed in together.
So we can't make it as hunter or gatherers anymore?
Most of us couldn't.
We might have to if we blow ourselves up and flood us.
Yeah, it'd be a few of us, and we'd be
we
way
would
different.
start again.
So it could be.
Hopefully your book will be around. I could read it.
Meanwhile, no, I'm not interested in that. I'm interested in what's going on now, that we understand better, so we can
guide it, maybe help guide it.
Help guide it, help accommodate ourselves to it, help appreciate the the magnificence.
Yeah, I appreciate it from hearing you. How would we help guide it?
I think I'll avoid that because that's sort of second step beyond where I'm at now.
Okay.
Is really wanting to identify the factors here, get people on board, talk to other collaborators, start figuring it out, making the ties back to evolutionary theory. So I talked about the Anthropocene, the built environment, and some other things I want to mention. I mentioned a little bit that we have different parts of our world now are really types of our physiology. I mentioned the whole eating and feeding and food processing industries and transportation. It operates on a social level to you take in food, process it, move it, and distribute it to us. So when you have parts of the world performing like that, then you've got, whoa, here's this whole, on a massive level, you've got something like, a food distribution system, pretty much like your bloodstream happening. So yeah, that's just linkages of firms, people, cooperating together or not, or selling their things. However it works, they're linked together, and that's the cumulative effect.
We are not alone. We're part of the stream, the new kind of stream of life.
The new kind of stream of life. That's good. I like it. So I also want to mention economics as well as a field that lends itself to helping determine what's going on with this present transition. Before going on that, I didn't mention that there are fields, branches within evolutionary theory that address big changes. So macroevolution in general tries to address, hey, what happens when you have big changes or significant changes, like all parts of evolutionary theory, that's much in dispute. I'll mention two subfields within that. One of them is called major transitions in evolution. So things when they went from bacterial cells to cells, big cells with eukaryote cells with nuclei in them, that was a really large transition. We mentioned multicellulars as another one. They do think of humanity as a major transition, but we don't know what it is. They do describe it as a kind of a social, humans as a special kind of society, but we have language. So that could be a different kind of inheritance mechanism. Who knows? It's pretty much just started, but it's identified. We are a major transition. Duh. So it's what kind of transition? So here you have the beginning of evolutionary theory broaching the subject that humanity is something different happening here, but nobody knows what it is. So putting that aside, and interrupt me, are we doing okay? Am I going on too much here?
No, you're doing fine.
Okay. So I wanted to put economics out there as a key factor to identify. The theorists who talk about major transitions in evolution, they talk about when things happen to make a transition, that synergies are very important. So when those individual cells got together that you like so much,
yes,
and this group sex or whatever they were doing to form a new individual as a multicellular, there were over that 100 million year period that I told you about that it took to go from single cells over to functioning multicellular organisms, there were synergies going on there. And if those synergies didn't happen, then those guys couldn't hang together. So there are synergies going on now among us, and some of those synergies are in the field of economics. Just the supply-demand business, that's a synergy. Just the crises that we're having, the swings, every which way you go, when there's more demand, there's more money for everybody. However you see those different things, the innovation levels, these are very, what domesticated animals did to humans at that time. It was made much easier for us to be more humans living in cities, feeding off the grains, and have many more people there to begin with. So that was like where a new type of innovation made a synergy to produce more food for people, and they could live together, and they accommodated to work together. They had to deal with surpluses, they moved them around, they bribed people for this and that. So economics has this synergy element to it that is made to try to understand what's going on today. There are some people who study evolutionary economics. They mostly butted their heads with the genetics guys, and like you've got to like be a neo-Darwinist, and it hasn't gotten very far. But anybody do a quick search on evolutionary economics if you're interested. There are fun things, good discussions happening there. I saw a good book coming out this year. Looking forward to it, and that's a favorite field to me to play in. I don't know about you, but yeah. So every time there was an innovation, say in social metabolism, we learned how to blend chemicals to make bronze. That was a new productivity. Our numbers flourished and went up. You know, iron came in, all of a sudden we had new tools, we could plow better, that kind of thing. So new chemistry, boom, we're off and being more productive. So you have this these synergies between domestication, between chemicals, and you know, so with our economics, and each time we're having new levels of little synergies going around. What it means long term, what's going on evolutionary, we haven't begun to study yet. So yeah, I'm just trying to whet the appetite again. And
discover.
Or discover. Yep.
Just smartphones are changing the world.
Yes, they are.
Huge. I love my smartphone.
I know you do.
Yes.
And yeah, that's changing how we interact, the distance that we can make collaborations with, the speed at which we can make them.
See each other face to face.
The quality of connection.
Yeah, huge.
And so that makes the different types of cooperation much more dispersed and much more...
Less lonely, we can work together.
Well, less lonely from being isolated, maybe not as unlonely as being together in groups around the fire that I might have been in.
Might be better.
So, there are trade-offs in all these things. And
so this is exciting. We're creating something new as we speak.
Yes.
And we have to understand it in a new way.
Yes, we do.
And you're going to help us.
I'm certainly going to...
You are helping us.
I'm certainly going to look. I find it really exciting, something we need to do, and I've been gratified in the people I've talked to so far.
Yes.
And looking for more support, collaboration, and pushing this forward. It's like there's no excuse for evolutionary theory to just stop when we get to hunter-gatherers and say, okay, we proved that these humans were able to get away from apes. Yeah, we know that now, that the backwards compatibility is there. Come on, let's talk about what's going on now.
Yeah,
let's talk about these strange stuff going on here.
Yes, you gave me a book that you didn't like, but I enjoyed about the new human being, which is going to be, I have replaced my cataracts. Is it replaced? Yes. Are cataracts lenses or something? I replaced my lenses. And I can see well now.
Okay.
So I'm part bionic man, right?
Yes, it sounds like it.
So that's new too.
Yes, that is.
And it could be more and more new artificial.
Yes.
Everything that so we're creating a new kind of being, maybe.
Yes, that's partly true.
And that might be very, very nice.
Yes.
With very many horrors, as always.
Very many what?
Horrors.
Yes, yeah.
So I love that. Who knows? I might be a little sad. We might not be the top of the heap anymore. These are called cyborgs, is that right?
Yep.
So that might be coming in, new heart, new shoulders. My friend's getting a new knee.
Yeah, that's important, and I tend to go away from that stuff. Because again, that sort of aggrandizes the individual human. Is kind of like, okay, the Superman's getting even stronger with his cyborgness, and that misses again the larger level that what's going on in collective processes.
Well, but if someone can give someone a liver or a kidney, that's huge.
This is all true.
Yes, so that's more interconnected, maybe.
Okay, yeah, that's more interconnected. That swapping organs.
But I could be connected with the sand that made my new lenses.
Yes, you could be.
I made that of sand, and I'm proud of it.
Okay.
Maybe I can be more down to earth. Now we only have, time flies when we're having fun. We have less than 3 minutes for us to sum up what we said, where we're going. Where are we going, Uncle Jake?
Is this now a good time to use the chart again since we did the lighting on it better?
If you like.
I would like to. Okay, if you don't mind, I'll try to summarize with that.
2 minutes to do the chart. Here we come.
Okay.
We're blessing you with this final 2 minutes.
Okay.
Of
and
the
I
chart.
hope it's helpful to
Here we
people.
come.
So This was a chart. I tried to summarize my arguments, and as I was telling people in the first segment, the evolutionary theory is already going through changes. That's an exciting. It's worth paying attention to. I am a reporter to follow what biologists all around the world are doing on this. Origin of life studies are progressing. They're exciting. They are addressing the continuity from chemistry to different aspects of life. What I think this will do is not only show continuity, I think it will also challenge the evolutionary theorists in a different way. They won't be able to deal with just this quantity of life, this one living thing, that they will have principles of life that will be complementary to Darwinism, and that all makes for an exciting future, and that's what I want to point out. These two things in black here, this is what's going on in biology now. It's underreported, and it's exciting about. In this segment, we've mostly been talking about the civilization component, which has been left out of evolutionary discussions, and I'm trying to bring attention to it, saying we need to do it, and you heard that in the last few minutes. The parts that this matters and been left out here tonight are that there were assumptions that went into philosophy and theology to make us have the biology we have today. They're important, you can't be forgotten. There are very good people in the history of science who are reporting on this. What is not talked about at all, and the most exciting, is that when we get different views about the nature of evolution, about the nature of life, and the nature of civilization, it's going to change how we see ourselves, how we see divinity in the world, how we see, not divinity, how we see the goodness and the miraculous part about what life is in the world,
yes,
and how we fit in and see each other. That it'll shift this whole sort of individual focused view that we have now, and it's an exciting world. That's what I'm interested in.